Okay, so your first question is, where's Louis? Yeah, this is a new room. I have moved, and I'm not telling you where. It's still in Philly, though, and I'm very happy about it. Let me give you a quick room tour. I'm not going to give you like a full house tour. But there you go. There's Mr. Raven on the wall. I have all pretty much the same stuff. There's still a lot of boxes in the corner, as you can see, because I didn't throw those out yet after moving. But I'm about to. Secondly, my avatar, or my profile picture on the channel, is new. It's a piece of art that I actually drew of myself, yours truly. So the real reason I'm here today is to do another book review, the first one of the new year. This is the first book I've finished this year, and it was definitely not a letdown. It is called Ghosted, and it is the premiere book, I believe, by Rosie Walsh, the author. And I kind of bought this book on a whim. I work at Barnes & Noble now, so they were having a sale, and it was like, you know, it was like a post-Christmas holiday sale thing. Anyway, it was like buy one, get one free, so I picked that one out of the other book that I was buying. And it was just kind of like oh, well, this looks interesting, like just glancing at the cover. And I hadn't heard of it before, but it turned out to be really good. I looked at it mainly because it was like a romance, mystery sort of thing. If you've ever heard of the term ghosted, which you probably have if you live in the 21st century in the year 2021, then you know that ghosting means like ignoring someone out of nowhere, basically. Someone who you were in contact with, usually via like text message or phone or something like that, or internet or whatever. Cutting ties with someone without warning. It's kind of only a relevant term now, or not now, but in the last 10, 20 years maybe. I think, I don't know who coined the term ghosted, ghosting, to ghost, ghost as a verb, but it has mainly to do with internet contact and social media and text messaging. And that's what this book is about. It's about a woman named Sarah who gets ghosted by a love interest, which is usually what bothers people about being ghosted. It's like you can be ghosted by friends, you can be ghosted by anyone, family, whatever, and it will bother you, obviously, if someone you care about just cuts ties with you suddenly without warning. But usually that applies to like a romantic relationship or like a dating relationship, or somebody who you're just like talking to, you don't know super well, but you're like trying it out, and then they just disappear on you. But she revisits her hometown, which is in the countryside, and she's there for a reason. She's revisiting childhood memories and some painful times, hard times growing up, being kind of an outcast in school and not having that many friends. And she's like in the fields near her house when she runs into this dashing man who's talking to a sheep. And he's like a shepherd or something, but no, he's not really. His name's Eddie, and he's this guy who lives in a cabin in the woods, basically, nearby, who just happens to be there in her hometown when she's taking a break. Sarah is permanently lives in LA, I believe, so she's flown back home for like a vacation to see her parents. In the summer, in like June, which is holds a special date that's dear to her heart. The significance of it is she just happens upon this guy Eddie. They really hit it off. She doesn't know why he's there in her like special place or whatever, but he lives nearby. I think it's like his hometown too. They don't really know much about each other, but they just kind of go on a spur of the moment date, drinks at some kind of villa or something like that, and then he takes her back to his place, which, as I said, is a little bar. It's actually like a barn in the woods that he's furnished into a workshop. He's like a woodworker. He makes bread. He's kind of like this rural woodsman type guy, and she instantly falls for him. He instantly falls for her. They swap information. He tells her that he has to go on a trip that he's been planning. he's going away on a vacation somewhere. I forget where. It's like whatever. He's going on holiday. And that's kind of the whole premise of the story is, wow, it was like this perfect week together. Young love. I mean, they're not that young. They're like in their late 30s. So, I mean, it's young love, but it's like mature adult love. They're both looking for, I guess, a serious relationship, or they're looking for a respite from a history, each of them, of bad relationships. He's got a strained relationship with his mother, Eddie does, because she's like mentally ill and he's like her full-time caretaker. Meanwhile, Sarah is like recently divorced, or she's going through a divorce, and she's like been reinventing herself over the years in America, in LA. She's a charity. She like has founded a charity with her ex-husband, so it's kind of putting a strain on her emotions and energy. You know, that her dream job and career also comes with having to work alongside her ex-husband, but who she's not in love with anymore. So like it's kind of like a blank slate for both Eddie and Sarah, that they're both like not, you know, stuck on anybody else, but they're kind of tied to their own paths. And that's kind of what the whole story is about, is cutting ties with your past, digging up the past. That again, these are spoiler-free reviews, but I don't want to give it away. But there's a reason Eddie goes missing. She starts, you know, obsessively, and I can relate to this, obsessively checking Facebook, obsessively like, hey, where are you, messaging, and like it says read at X o'clock or whatever. So she knows he's getting the messages, he's just not responding. Every once in a while she'll see like the little speech bubbles pop up, like he's typing something, and like, but he's not responding to her, and she has been ghosted, you know. Sarah's friends are telling her to like give up on this dude, it was only a week, whatever. But she kind of gets obsessive about it. And again, I can relate to this because I, as an obsessive person myself, especially with like romantic relationships or just with people in general, when I really get attached to them, you start to want to dig up information about them and find out where they're at, track them down. So she sort of starts doing like detective work, using technology and social media to start finding out what the heck happened to Eddie, because it seemed like it was going well, and why would he just disappear? Why would he just change his mind at the last minute? And that's kind of the vast majority of the novel, is her like trying to get a hold of Eddie. And I know that doesn't sound that exciting, but it goes deeper than that. I will say that Walsh as an author is actually, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't realize there'd be so many twists and turns. I knew that there was a promise of like, there's a reason he's ghosted her, and there's a secret at the core of this that has to do with things that are like set up at the beginning of the novel. You know, Sarah has, he doesn't know when they first meet during that week that she has a husband that she's getting divorced from, or like what happened to her sister, or like what she doesn't know why Eddie's mother is in the mental state that she's in, and like they both have like broken kind of family situations, and you would think that those have nothing to do with each other, right? You would think that like this random romance fling that comes out of nowhere would be an escape from those things, but let's just say the novel delivers. Every detail that's brought up, that the author brings up in this novel, comes into play later. Walsh has a really good grasp on payoff, on fiction. Like every word, every single like plot point is not just there by happenstance. It's not just, there's no throwaway plot points in this book, even down to like the most minor characters. Because Eddie and Sarah both have like friend groups, and there's like subplots involving those friends. It all comes into play in the end. So Sarah is the narrator, and you have to eventually, you know, you're in her mindset, like she's so worried and caught up in the moment and caught up in her own emotions and feelings, that you start to wonder, gee, is she even giving the reader all the information we need to know? And So the author in this book really plays a lot around with the idea of unreliable narrator, or maybe not unreliable, but just the narrator is a character, and you have to keep that in mind, that we're in Sarah's head, and she's almost treating the novel as like a journal. There are chapters where it's just letters being written, and you're wondering what like these letters are so like ambiguous sometimes. Like, who's she writing to? I guess, you know, in some chapters it's obvious that she's writing to Eddie. Some chapters are even just text messages to Eddie. So it goes back and forth between her narrating the action, like that's actually happening, and just her message that she's actually written and sent out into the world. And sometimes it's not clear who the letters are to, or even, you know, like by whom they're addressed. Sometimes it's just like quick texts, like "Dear you from me," you know, that kind of thing. And you kind of have to piece together those messages. Actually, I was reading maybe a little too far into the title, Ghosted. You know, ghosting doesn't mean actual ghosts, but I thought, gee, how can that title apply to the supernatural concept of ghosts? And I had some maybe unfounded early theories about the term ghosting and what that might mean for some certain characters. I won't tell you whether or not it goes in that direction, but this novel did go in a direction that I really appreciated, and it did not let me down. So it brings to mind the novel The Prestige by Christopher Priest, and the movie, of course. The idea of misdirection. The author of this novel does a lot of misdirection early on, like pointing you, and even though everything is relevant, how certain things are relevant, the details that actually matter in one moment or to one character, she focuses on those instead of something that might make the twists and turns obvious. So the reason why this novel is so good is a combination of the author's use of misdirection and unreliable narrator. And I think that really created the potential for how many twists and plot twists this novel has in it, and why the truth is not so obvious to the reader right off the bat, and why it's not so obvious to the characters. Anyway, yeah, so go check it out. Ghosted. Don't ghost anyone. It's hurtful. If you want to cut ties with someone in real life, be upfront about it. It's hard. It's not easy, I know. But in real life, people don't always have secret reasons why they ghost people. That's kind of the truth. As much as I love this book and the story that goes along with, like, a creative reason why someone might ghost someone else, the truth of the matter is, in real life, people do just ghost people for no reason, and that hurts. And people don't always get answers as to why that happens. But I think that's why stories like this are so invaluable, because at least it gives you something to latch onto in that regard. Some kind of reason, some kind of story to really follow through in your imagination, in your mind, to give you some sort of closure, even if it's just in fiction. Anyway, that's all for now. I hope to read a lot more good books this year. And I'll see you in the next one. I will not ghost you. Not on YouTube. You can trust me on that.